I'm with Nataraj in Kurunbong in the Shanti Mission Harmony Center. So let's say hello.
Hello there. Narrative.
You've been so generous with me to give me your contact and help me, and even from the States, help me focus in on what Shanti Mission has to offer. And actually, I don't know if it was you that set me up with Shakti Durga to do our talk, or...
Yeah, that was Adidas, my housemate originally.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, it's been a pleasure.
Yeah. And to be with you is so comfortable, and to be in your space is so clear. Not only your space of your office and the space you project, but also the space of your home. It's just...
I'm glad.
Very meaningful for me. So something is being lived here, you know, your practicality, your earthiness, you're earthed. You know, to me, you don't, you know, a lot of beliefs, and you're just looking where some openness and some freedom can actually connect and make a difference in your life and in people's lives and in the life of the earth. I applaud you and acknowledge you. And I'm very pleased to be a part, or to have this time with you.
Good. It's been fun.
And then exciting background in publishing and business and psychoanalysis. You know, that all things that can really help us put something that we're finding out into the hands of those who wish to really contribute, finding how easy it is to be engaged and to, I don't know, we say these things that almost sound trite and make a difference, but what is it? What is it that we're doing?
Well, I think engagement is a big part of it. It's learning how to, I think, engage more profoundly with ourselves, and, with each other, with our lives. It's about living more authentically, I think. You know, trying to discover what it is that we want our lives to be about, and finding ways to live and express that.
To express, you know, something is really important to me, at least. When I express, something becomes real for me, and it seems to take hold and effect in my life and somehow show up. And it seems like for so long in our lives, as we remember, trying to put some ease, inject some ease in there, and yet the rough spots kept popping up to the surface, and saying, well, is that just life, or am I doing it to myself, or is that just destiny, or, I mean, somehow the linkage to how we feel, what we think, what actions we do, and what shows up in our life, somehow these linkages seem to be obscure, and then for others it seems to go so smoothly. And maybe they never think of the linkages either, they just think it's grace. But these linkages must be there, right?
I think so, yeah. And I think part of the journey is discovering those linkages, becoming aware of how they are connected. Learning about, becoming aware of how it is that we might block certain possibilities, certain opportunities in our lives. And
that's easy. We just say no, right?
yeah, no, but also in all kinds of unconscious ways, you know, or in living out, you know, unconscious habits that keep playing out in different environments and different circumstances, and you know, until we become aware of them, we remain prisoners to these habits, and we see them as circumstances which play out in our lives without really understanding that, you know, we're helping to co-create these situations, and often in an unknowing way. And so I think an exciting part of this whole journey is to really start to uncover how I might be contributing to the way that my life plays out, and to start to really accept responsibility for the kind of life that one lives, and to be empowered by the notion that, well, we are actually responsible for the kinds of choices that we make, and therefore the kinds of lives that we lead. You know, where do we want to put our energies? We might say we believe we want something, and yet at all sorts of
obstacles,
unconscious levels, we might also be blocking that. So there's this dance between what we think we desire and then, you know, the fear that often arises as we move towards that. You think of intimacy. You know, most people want intimacy, connection, and yet, you know, as we move closer towards it, you know, there are aspects of ourselves that also, you know, want us to move away from it. You know, fear starts to arise.
We arrive at our veer-off points.
Yeah, and often it's unwittingly so. It's like, you know, we desire something, and as we start to move towards it, then often fear starts to arise within our organism, and often in an unconscious way we might actually sabotage that, or actually
okay, so we have a veer-off point, then we don't notice it because we project it and say, no, that point is what you're doing to make this, you're veering off.
Or we might perceive all kinds of things in the other, or in the circumstances that warn us away from actually doing what we desire. And or it starts to feel too difficult because you know, often we think that we avoid what we fear, but we also actually, I think, avoid, you know, what would be most joyful for us too. You know, we're actually also frightened of our magnificence. And as the possibility of starting to move towards that arises, all other aspects of ourselves start to arise also that you know, prevent us from moving towards that.
I wonder if that fear is based in meaning. In other words, if something happens in our life, we think that it means something, and we're looking for that meaning. What does this mean now? Okay, I don't know. I have to ascribe a meaning to this, and so then that's the fear, because these meanings, like, well, first of all, we don't know what they are, and then we pick up somebody else's idea of what a meaning should be, like if this happens and that, and then that's a seed of a giant story that is actually kind of scary, because who knows where it'll go. But if everything that happens in our life had no meaning, you know, in some sense, in this moment, it has no meaning. It only has meaning in the trail of our mental processes. You know, and then we can say, okay, I'll make a nice meaning for that too, but then in this moment I'll celebrate the meaning, the no meaningless part. And then we can go deeper into the water, because we just saying, okay, for now I'm just going to plunge, right? You know, I thought to say that it sometimes seems like a tough nut to crack, to say I'm responsible for my life, you know, and you say, like, how could I be responsible for this, you know, and what about all these things that are happening around me, and they're so far away, and the energy people are spilling oil in oceans and killing things and cutting trees and digging huge holes and releasing radon gas around uranium mines, and so then seems clear that I'm not responsible. And somehow, it just, what we're saying, I think, is that until those unconsciously irresponsible, maybe something, or like, until we, each time we say somebody else is responsible, we haven't, that's the end of our activity zone, right?
There's a disempowerment in that, because one can start to become inert in deciding that we don't have much power to do anything. I think fundamentally we have the ability to respond. Clearly, if we can't do everything about everything, but we do have the ability to respond to our experience of the world, and that's where our power lies. If energy companies are polluting the earth, then does that shut me down, or does that activate me to do something
to
about
engage?
That? To engage.
That's what we said before.
Yeah, and so at that level, I think we are responsible for the way that we encounter the world. The world is as it is, but we have a choice about how we engage with the world.
Well, more than that, we have actually the choice to encounter the world, because we can hide in the closet, and we can actually decorate it as a spiritual cave and retreat and mission and ashram and decorate all that, and then we can actually find very wide spaces and say we are the world, but actually we don't know what's going on next door, really. But we are living in an illusion that we are everything and everyone. And then we say that those things that are only thought-based are not worth engaging with or sharing our attention with.
Yeah, and clearly that kind of spirituality can become an avoidance of life.
That's the great interpretation. So many people are interpreting, or even if it's not being said, that's how it's being received so often. And then, why is the world in the state it is? Because somebody, through their inattention, made the space for all mischief in the world to happen. In other words, we could say we're powerless, but in that saying, we allow whatever the ones that are powerful want to do. It's the same dance.
And that can become an ongoing excuse for inertia.
Inertia and blindness.
Yeah. So we all have the power from wherever we are to, as you say, to engage with life, to say yes to life, and to connect more deeply with ourselves. And as we connect more deeply with ourselves, with our authenticity, then we're inspired to act in ways that move us toward greater connection, greater authenticity. That becomes the inspiration for the kind of movement in our lives. And for different people, that movement, that creative potential, that creative capacity will have different flavors. And so I think it's about really connecting with what's unique in yourself, in your own depths, and then moving towards that in life.
Somehow I think those flavors can mix, and then if we're really kind of like narrow, our flavor stays pure. But somehow if we start to say yes, each activity, each time we engage, that
enriches the flavor.
Can enrich it, right, but it also can be a new foundation and a new platform. Exactly. To be available for what else can happen, and say, oh, I can do that, appropriately be available, because some things I can do, right? If it has to do with video, I can do it, right? And so then each thing I do allows me to feel comfortable to enter the next thing, and also gives me the credibility that people will ask me. And so then that's just the moment, the roll of the moment, how the moment rolls, because we don't even have to say it's the past and the future, but it's just what's on my plate for today. And so the quicker you start, the richer it gets. Yeah.
And as we open up to new possibilities, you know, that also, that movement creates new possibilities. You know, so we start to become who we thought we could never be, as we start to move towards new possibilities. And so I think there's a kind of threshold that we need to overcome and start the movement towards something.
So then that's really the greater, how we started this conversation. We talked about yes and no, you know. So then no, in a way, is we become that which we thought was an impossibility. That what we thought was an impossibility was the way we said no.
Yeah. You know, there's a contraction around possibility, and that's okay too. You know, but it's just knowing that that's what's happening. You know?
Well, it's always there on some level, probably, right? And there's no level like a level, but I mean, each thing we break through and say, well, that was easy, or I made a few mistakes, but I learned from it.
So I think, you know, an important part of the process is just becoming aware of, you know, these contractions and expansions, and that, you know, if we don't feel safe enough, then, you know, we probably won't act. But just to notice that that's what's happening, you know, to notice that in this moment I'm contracting, and that's okay, but just to be aware of that.
I like that a lot, you know, because like we often talk maybe on these discussions that we notice parts of life that are tight and parts that are open, you know, and so for some reason we prefer the open ones, right? And then I've even said that at a certain point we say, oh, you should be in the fulcrum, and then that's called a witness, right? But I'm saying like we should just be wider than that and just ride the up and ride the down, even leave some extra space for the unknown, and just say our life can go any of these places, you know, and without a preference, right? Oh, now I'm having a really good down. Oh, now I'm having a really good up. Oh, now I'm having a really good witness. Oh, now I'm in the black. I don't know what that black is going to have. And then if we had a definition like that, that our life was as wide as that, then we wouldn't be running or judging.
Exactly.
Because that's all part of it, you know. We wouldn't have to say, oh no, it's supposed to be on the upside. What'll I do to get back there?
Exactly, and I think, you know, fundamental message from most of the spiritual traditions is that, you know, real liberation comes when we accept ourselves in our brokenness. You know, there's a paradox that when we're really able to embrace all of ourselves, including our brokenness, that's the preciousness of ourselves that's embracing the brokenness. And so in the moment of embracing the brokenness, we're actually embodying the preciousness of our basic goodness, to use a Buddhist kind of notion. So yeah, so it's actually in the embrace of our brokenness that we actually embody our fundamental nature. In that self-acceptance, that total self-acceptance of whatever is in this moment, including, you know, the bad, the good, the contraction, the expansion. It's an embrace and acceptance of our human condition. And in that embodied embrace, you know, I feel that that's when we touch our essential nature, and we can really do that.
Yeah. I don't know, is there that difference? Okay, we're saying there's a difference of brokenness and wholeness, or something that we accept and something that we're hesitant about, and somehow going for the hesitant part, it seems almost like that's the whole ball of wax, that's the whole thing. It's just taking that in. Is that just because the other part is already in, or is that just because it's the subtlety of it is
I think that there's a tendency in most people toward separation of that which is not acceptable in themselves. And there's a constant generation of self-aggression towards those aspects of ourselves, you know. So it's
call it the improvement process.
Yeah, and that's right, and that's why self-development can become another form of self-aggression, you know, and that's why I think it's in the embrace of the totality that we actually most fundamentally become who we are.
I found that many things are subtle in life. And so then somehow, of course the subtleties would be the things we're suppressing, because those are the ones that seem very small, because we've got them way, way, way down. And so then it's so easy. It's so easy to notice maybe that what we're looking for is probably we're stepping all over it, you know, where could it be? And then, but it's just tiny. It's a tiny little thing because we have it so managed and so suppressed and so. So then we have to kind of keep our eye out and be still, actually, and to notice these things and Nataraj must be the great dance, right? The great dancer.
Yeah, the cosmic dancer, apparently.
Kinesthetic, right? There's the left brain, the right brain, and then there's the whole body, the whole dance, right? So it's not the way of the heart, not the way of the head, it's the way of the whirling, or what?
The ebb and flow, the light and dark.
It's activity, right?
Yeah, it's the movement. It's the flow.
Engagement.
It's the flow of the dance. The movement in, the movement out. The embrace of the light, the embrace of the dark. And I think it's the embodiment of the divine. Through becoming what is yet unknown, if that makes sense. Through allowing ourselves to become.
So that's like becoming is moving with. So often we move against her, we try to stop the flow.
Moving with and moving into the unknown.
And that's where we define as fear, but really, what is it? It's probably thrilling too. It's exciting, and
Yeah.
you know, we need a little bit of both. If we were all totally secure, were we bored?
Oh yeah.
So just the right amounts is what most people say.
Well, I think it's actually about learning to walk in the unknown and being excited by that. And engaging fear and embracing fear. And again, with fear, our tendency is to want to fight fear, want to kind of suppress fear. And I think, the dance is actually a really nice metaphor for how we might engage fear.
So we go in and out, right? It's because we dance this way and then we dance that way, right?
We dance with fear.
Right.
Instead of wanting to conquer fear, we begin to dance with fear, and we find that as we become more intimate with fear in this dance, we find that she actually starts to light the way. Because our fear is also, Shakti Durga talks about how fear is actually at the sentinel at the gateway to love. So it's really about how we learn to relate to this sentinel. If we go in and want to, fight with her, if we want to conquer her, well then she's going to keep us out. If we move towards her and bow towards her and engage her in a dance of intimacy, then she'll actually yield and light the way.
So it's coming to me that fear is life. It's that tingling and that. But if it gets too intense, we're saying, no, that's too much tingling.
Fear is also the doorway to love.
Yeah.
I think.
I said life.
Life and love.
Yeah. So when you're alive, you can be in love. But when you're not alive, there's no love, there's only the thought of love.
Yeah.
And so then the fear is like that, you know, like, that is life really, right? It's not a, you know, and we say if it's too intense we call it fear, but you know, we know so little about life. Now we're saying that actually life is fear, you know, and concept is safety. That if we live in a thought, that we can not experience that tingling and that sensation of like, ooh, ooh, this is something, ooh, right? And then the thing we fear is life itself. And love is the byproduct of being alive.
I think maybe love is the ability to move into the intensity of, to be with our fear, to move into the fear. And as we have the courage to move into the fear, dance with the fear, be with the fear, then the fear starts to transmute and become love.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because
I don't know, I'm liking what I'm saying, because like I'm trying to give another word, because we're saying, okay, like it's a duty or a task to accept fear and to dance with fear and to get too close to fear. And I'm saying, hey, wait a minute, fear is just that tingling sensation that something we don't know what's happening.
Yeah.
And that, I'm just saying that is actually what real life is.
Yeah.
You know, so then if we don't say dance with fear, that sounds like, oh, well, I'll do that tomorrow. Later, please. And then if I say dance with life, you might say, well, gosh, haven't I been dancing with life all the time? You mean I'm missing it? And I say, yes, probably you are, check it out. So then I would just throw the word fear out and just say that's life. Of course, life has its own appropriateness, not to be flying when you don't have wings. You know, like, so that's we call it the fear component, which is just the prudence. You know, life can be prudent, and that's where the tingling of life turns us from a certain activity, like too close to the edge of a precipice or something. But I don't know. I feel so grounded with you. You know, I feel like, you know, whatever you're involved with must be wonderful, because like it's left such a great aura around you, or a space, you know, like that you're just here. Because there's no like tendency to make up these, I hate these sayings like aware of awareness and all these kind of things that these so-called deep people are telling us to just go off into Never Never Land and be air. And I don't know, something about Earth is like, to me, what humanity is. Like our clock is Earth, our substance is Earth. People call it stardust, but anyhow, it's congealed to this substance, which we come from, which we eat, which we return to.
I think we become the divine on earth. You know, that's the expression of the divine. It's kind of like we're the fingers, the pointy edge of the divine. And as we become more, we allow the divine to know itself. So it's in our expansion into life, we are creating life. We're bringing light to the unknown in our own expansion. And that's, I think, our ultimate responsibility, is to become. Because as we become, we allow the divine to know itself. And so that's our responsibility.
I guess you can see I'm in love with Nataraj. I want to talk with him more and more. we'll be seeing him over this next days and next month. And now we got an idea that we're going to run up to Sydney and go see a bunch of people. So thank you so much, Nataraj.
Thank you. That was fun.
Until the next time.